All righty, everybody. Welcome to Talking Real Estate with the Champions Real Estate team here, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark T. Wehner II, team leader here at Champions Real Estate team. So every Wednesday we try to jump on, usually around the lunch hour, but I have a home inspection over the lunch hour. So we're jumping on here a little bit early today. And Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage is joining us as well to kind of give us an update on what's going on in the mortgage industry. But as always, we kind of touch on what's going on over the last week. We just had a mastermind meeting that I was involved in yesterday, so I'll kind of touch on some high points that we touched on in that meeting with another about 15 agents at Berkshire Hathaway that we meet once a month to stay on top of what's going on in the industry, what other agents are seeing, all that good stuff. So I want to relay that information that we talked about in that meeting yesterday. So let's jump right into what's going on in the marketplace here. Here we go. So looking at the activity over the last week, we had 436 new homes go on the market. We had 423 contracts and 536 homes that were sold this last week. So kind of very similar to the previous weeks, what we're seeing, kind of the one in, one out as one's coming on the market, one's going off the market. So nothing too crazy outlandish in that regards. Take a look at what's the big picture, the 30,000 foot view. So when we take a look at the overall Omaha and Lincoln MLS, we have 1,550 active homes that you can go take a look at today. There's about 1,700 total homes that are active on the market, but the remaining about 200 are in the no-show status, which basically means those are listings that only us as agents can see. A lot of times those houses are getting ready to be put on the market. So they're kind of just there. So as agents can kind of keep an eye on them. In that regard. So when we break it down to the Douglas-Sarpy County area, which is that greater Omaha area, we have 810 listings you can go take a look at. Breaking it down even a little further into the existing versus the new construction, we have 513 existing homes in the marketplace to go look at today. And then we have 297 new construction homes, be it spec homes or homes that are being in the process of being completed. We did see a jump from the previous month of the average sold price going from 285 to 293. That's a 17% increase from June of 2020. So we're seeing, there's a lot of things that are involved in that aspect of it. We did see lumber prices come down when we were talking our mastermind meeting yesterday. It was down to about $700 to $800 per 1,000 feet. It was at highs of about, I think, $1,600 to $1,700. So even though those numbers are coming down, prices are still going up because we still have land costs going up, labor going up, electrical going up. We have a lot of things like that are all tied into that new construction build, which is essentially driving those prices up. And then that low inventory that we're seeing, across the marketplace, that is very common. So we've seen a lot of different changes over the last, 12 to 18 months, probably more changes than I've seen, in my years, 13 years in the real estate business, talking to the other agents, being a fourth generation, talking to my father who's been in it since the 70s. Even in our mastermind meetings, some of the agents that are more experienced, this is kind of the biggest change they've seen in the shortest amount of time. Over the last 18 months, obviously with pandemic, we saw, as we touched on before, the perfect storm. Every decade prior to 2010, they were building about 20 million homes, 25 million homes in the U.S. And then we dropped down from 2000 to 2019, and we're only building 5.8 million homes. And then we're seeing birth rates of the average homeowner, the average age being 33 years old, which is based about 1989, 1988, and every subsequent year of that going up. So we're having more buyers enter the marketplace with less inventory. Hence, we're seeing those prices drive up. So what does that mean here in the Omaha metro area for those that are looking to buy and sell their house? Well, selling your home, it's a great opportunity. Seeing obviously the prices increase, 17% since last year from a buyer's perspective. As at our meeting yesterday, a lot of the agents are seeing some of the buyers kind of, going to the sidelines a little bit, and we're seeing a lot of less buyer activity. I had a house that just went live last weekend, got it sold, in a day or so. We only had on a $230,000 listing, we only had 6 offers on that home, whereas, 2-3 months ago, that might've been a 15, 20 offer house. They still got a very good price for the home, but what does that mean for buyers? Yes, you're still having competition, but you're having less competition out there. What we're seeing is a lot of people that are doing things that they didn't get a chance to do last year. going to the College World Series, you got the swim trials, people just going on family vacations. On my Facebook feed, my personal Facebook feed, you're seeing tons of people going out there, going on family vacations because they couldn't last year, making up for lost time. So in turn, that's, those people that may be looking at homes, they're spending time with their family, their kids, exactly in that aspect of it, to go on those vacations. So those people that are still, sitting on the sidelines going, oh, there's so much competition out there. Well, a lot of that competition has gone and done other things at the moment. So, my advice, obviously we touched on every week, is have a plan, have a strategy, and keep moving forward with that plan and strategy. Because obviously, there's no better time to buy than today. As interest rates, as we'll talk with Russ here in a second, just what they're doing in that regards, what the Feds are doing, all that fun stuff. But, that's the thing we're seeing as you see here, the housing, we're seeing more homes come on the market. What do we see here? There are 1,200 homes back in I'm looking at my notes here in May, at the beginning of May, we only had 1,200 homes. Right now we have 1,500 homes. So we're seeing more homes come on the marketplace. I think the market's going to pick back up again. Just my thoughts, after school, after that kind of Labor Day, weekend kind of comes in, you're going to see, kids are back at school. Let's get back in it. Let's get back and looking at houses. Those ones that are kind of waited on the sidelines, or just, relaxing for the summer, going on those vacations. Once the kids go back to school, that home buyers are going to kind of get back in there. So that's kind of my take on what's going on in the market. Let's jump in here with Russ and touch base with him and see what's going on in the mortgage industry. So how are we doing, Russ?
Mark, I'm shocked that we are at the end of the first half of 2021. Time flies.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. Hey, interest rates are holding pretty steady. We're up just a little bit week over week, as we've talked about in previous weeks here. The reason for that, you alluded to earlier, the Federal Reserve Bank is pumping a lot of money into debt, meaning bonds, in this case, mortgage bonds, and that's what's keeping interest rates down. Right now, the Fed roughly holds 1/3 on their balance sheet, 1/3 of all mortgage debt, or all mortgage bonds, I should say, in the U.S. Now, the reason why it's important for your listeners to, if they want to buy a home, to buy now if they're financing the home is this. The most recent reports are showing that inflation is running somewhere around 5%. The Fed happens to believe, for the most part, that a lot of that inflation is temporary, or what they call transitory. But more and more Fed members, as well as more and more pressure from politicians, is under the belief that some of that inflation might stick around. And here's why that's important. Think of it this way. When you are buying a mortgage bond, that the proceeds of that bond sale are being used to finance your house, Mark. So if you're buying an investment that is giving you a rate of return of 2.5%, but inflation is clicking along at 5%, are you making money or are you losing money? You're losing money to the tune of 2.5%. So in the event that the Fed, not only because of pressure from politicians, but because of increased belief that some of the inflation may be longer term and not transitory or not temporary, the Fed at some point in time may well start to back off of putting so much money into mortgage bonds, which is going to push mortgage bond prices down and yields higher, which will bring interest rates up. And as we've talked about before, Mark, just a 1% increase in interest rates will reduce your buying power by 10%. So for your buyers that are saying, Mark, I really don't want to buy that house for 10 or 15 or 20,000 above asking price, your payment may actually be higher at the lower price if home prices do plateau at some point in the near future. So what I'm telling you is, if you're financing a home, there is no better time to buy than today. Interest rates are likely to move up if the Fed, due to lots of different reasons, starts to believe that more inflation is going to stick around once COVID ends.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think we're also seeing, when we were talking in our mastermind meeting yesterday, that agents are also getting accepted contracts at listing price, because there's less competition. Because I think there are some, depending on how agents price their homes, and the sellers decide where they want to put the house on the market, is that if they're shooting for the moon, a lot of people don't want to pay that. And if they're going way low, trying to get multiple offers, that's discouraging buyers from putting in offers, because they're like, well, I don't want to get in a huge bidding war. And if you price it correctly, you know, you may get a couple of different offers, but, you know, you're going to compete, you know, and those buyers and that seller is going to be happy. So it's kind of a mutual, you know, benefit to everybody that, yeah, you're paying a little bit more, you're paying market price, and that seller's, you know, happy because they're getting a pretty good chunk of change for their house. So yeah, it is. I mean, I think, you know, waiting, you know, especially in the new construction side, you know, even when I first got into business, the best time to buy a new construction was yesterday. It doesn't matter if it's 2008 or if it's 2021, you know, prices are always typically going up in that regard. So anything else you got as far as mortgage side of it?
That's my message. Yeah, get out there and buy homes.
Right.
Financing is cheap right now.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of everything I kind of had for today. So if you have any questions, comments, you know, comment on this post, you can reach us here at 402-672-7670. And yeah, give me a holler. If there's any topics you want us to cover on this little short video, happy to do so. You know, let us know. You can comment. We'll read and respond to you in that regards. But as always, if you have any questions, give us a holler, championsrealestateteam.com for all your active listings that are on there on the market. And we will see you guys next week. Have a great, happy, and safe 4th of July this weekend. Enjoy it. Yeah. Anything else you got to add?
That's it. Thanks, Mark.
All right.
Happy
Cool.
4th,
Appreciate
everyone.
it. Yep.